A question that my girlfriend asked. I believe I give her the name of the protein powder, and then for someone who never taken it before, and she said, "I don't work out
Mhm.
so intensely like you, Helen. Why do I have to take protein powder?" So, what do you say to women who ask you the question?
So I believe that every human on earth needs a certain amount of protein. And one of the big problems is a lot of people don't have a lot of protein in them. And that's what usually tends to result in excess. Well, it contributes to excess added body fat. Because whether we think we need something like protein or not, the body's working 24 hours a day. And 24 hours a day, it's doing one of two things in regards to weight gain. It's either gaining more fat or gaining more muscle. There's no in between. There's never a sedentary moment where it's just not doing anything. But how it gains is really based on daily performance, recovery,
Mm.
and nutrition. So when it comes to protein, if there's not enough protein in the body, what we find with our results is that no matter how hard you work out, you'll always gain some muscle, you always gain some endurance, but you won't always see it. There'll, a lack of protein will usually leave a layer of body fat surrounding the body. So visually, you don't get a chance to really appreciate what you've created because it's covered in some fat.
Okay. What about age? Like,
What about it?
well,
What do you mean?
most time women. I mean, do you see kids? I mean, not kids, early 20s taking protein powder?
So when it comes to protein specifically,
Mm,
like I can't talk about this about everything, okay?
right.
But what I find is that protein's the center block for all muscle gained. It without protein, a lot of the other stuff that somebody might take for training doesn't work as effectively. Now, this is in terms of developing lean muscle and lowering the body fat. If we're talking about endurance training, well, that's different. If we're talking about strength training, it doesn't have to be specific on protein. But if you're talking about losing body fat and showing off that nice lean muscle, like what you've created in your body, there's no question. Like I can only talk from my experience. The youngest I've ever trained someone was 20 years old. I don't remember training a teen in this area. Um, I'm taking a second to make sure that I'm saying this accurately. So, from my experience, from 20 years old and above, when you're 20, you can get away with less protein because your hormones are firing off like crazy.
Mm.
But after 25, things start to dwindle down a little bit. Not for everybody, not for everyone, but for most people, to my experience, dwindle down, meaning the hormones are not as strong at 30 as they were in 20. The hormones aren't reproducing as strongly at 40 as they were in 30. And the more that the hormones start to lower, the more that we need good nutrition to support what we've got and to support the gains that we want to produce. Nutrition is core. It's not just workout. The problem is that most people don't think that way, and it's not their fault. It's because everybody on social media is trying to get more likes and get more attention. But how do you make it attractive and sexy to sit there and eat a steak and salad when the video next to you is this really hot woman or man who's like shredded and ripped and bending over to do backward row or back rows and bench press? Like, salad, sexy person, salad and steak. I don't, it's not quite not much of a competition there, right? But
But
no,
if you
you got to
if you
have
eat a
protein.
steak and you eating protein powder, I'll get the same result. Does it really matter?
Well, yeah,
It's
yeah,
true, right?
yeah. Well, look, 2018, you didn't take protein. Look how much you struggled. You're a perfect example of that. And I was thinking about you during this explanation. 2018, that entire year, you worked out hard. You didn't work out every day. You couldn't because you were sore all the time. But you worked for the days you were there, 3 days a week on average. You were working your ass off. I made sure of that. And look what happened. The whole 2018, you were with me, except for when you were on vacations. But that was a whole year of training. End result, you got stronger. You got better endurance. You were able to perform better in our martial arts class. But visually, you still had that layer of fat that you no longer have. Recovery wise, you were taking 2 to 3 times as long to recover muscles the way you do now. You'd work out legs on a Monday, you'd be sore till Wednesday or Thursday, right? Right? Now you work out legs, you're good in 2 days. You might be a little sore, but it's not stopping you the way it used to. Before, you'd have to hang onto the rails to get down the stairs. When was the last time you had to do that?
Right, you're right. What about going back to the Stone Age people? They were not. Them? They never had a protein powder, but the men's looked ripped.
Well, okay, so we're 2 things. One, they probably were really ripped because they were running away from everything or fighting everything. They weren't, they weren't going to Walmart to go pick up their meat. They'd have to hunt to go get it.
So they move a lot.
They were a hell of a lot more active than we have ever been because for them it was survival. B, there was no GMOs and pesticides and herbicides back then. So everything was pure, the highest possible quality that you could get from meat, wild meats. There was nothing, creating virus or disease in that animal unless it was already diseased from rabies or something. But obviously that's not the case because the cave people is what led us to evolve to here. So if they were getting sick all the time, we would not be here. So their meat quality, you would have to go to somewhere very rural where there's no people in a small town and like a farm city to get that level of pure meat. So if you got pure high quality meat in front of you, the way it responds to your body is much more effective than the production type meat that we get today. That's full of hormones and steroids.
Right. Yes. I'm trying to encourage women who never been on protein powder. First thing I tell them is, you must start on protein powder. But yet they say, wow, you work more than I do. You need it more than I do, right? So
that's just a lack of education, and I say that respectfully. Like, look, when I was 20, I was trying to bulk up and get big because in high school I was big, and then I started dating this girl at the time, and then I got super fat and I started looking like dad bod of 1997. It was just it wasn't sexy at all. And when I started using protein back then, I didn't know its value. I just thought, protein's going to make me big. No, bullshit. It doesn't just make you big, but it repairs the muscle. It wasn't until years later when we started doing Krav Maga training that I realized the guys who were getting injured a lot were usually the ones that were lacking nutrition. And I was one of those guys. 2009, 2010, I wasn't focused on protein. And as a result, I noticed I was losing muscle fast. I was gaining fat very fast. Didn't matter how hard I worked out. I always felt weak. Until I started realizing and studying and realizing there's a certain level of protein every person needs. Whether you get that from a meat or you get that from vegetables or like a vegan type protein, it doesn't matter necessarily the source, but the amounts. Well, it matters based on your body type, like your body has to be able to accept it. But once you get past that, every person who is strong, if you look at how they eat or the things they consume, they all tend, whether they mean to or not, they all have a certain standard of protein they take in. And people that are growing weak physically, a lot of times they're either not having enough protein or the protein type they're consuming is not absorbing into their body at an efficient level. So no, you know what, for anybody who thinks, oh, I don't work out enough,
Mhm.
I would strongly want to suggest to look up how much protein does your body actually need just to live healthy, just to live strong. And not just strong like in your 20s and 30s, but
Mhm.
as we age, 40s, 50s,
Mhm.
60s, 70s, the
Mhm.
older we get, the
Mhm.
more nutrition really matters if our goal is to live healthy and happy, at least in my opinion.
What happens if you take too much protein at this age, 40s and 50?
The question might be, how much is too much?
Mm,
How much is too
what
much?
about 80% of your diet calories come from protein? What would happen to your body? Normally, people say, okay, 50% of the calories come from protein. For example, if you allow 2,000 calories a day, and if that calories comes from, no, 80% of that calorie goes to protein, what would happen to your body?
I think that's a good question. It also makes me think of several answers because that scenario would the result from that scenario
Mm,
has additional factors involved. For example,
mm,
let's say somebody had a 2,000 calorie diet
mm-hmm,
and they got 80% of those calories from protein.
mm-hmm,
Well, if that be the case, then the next question would be, what else are they consuming with that protein? Because for most people, if they have, not everyone, okay, not everyone,
mm-hmm,
but for many people I've met, when they have only protein,
mm,
they have a very hard time going to the washroom the next
okay.
day.
Mm-hmm,
So now the question becomes, now that you're having enough protein, what else are you eating that's balanced
mm-hmm,
that helps your body absorb the protein source you're consuming?
mm-hmm,
That's why we talk about having enough fiber and having enough carbs. The fiber
mm-hmm,
is to help break everything down so your body can use it instead
mm-hmm,
of just flush it out or try
mm-hmm,
to.
mm-hmm.
The carbs is to have enough energy throughout your day so you can use that protein. Because if it just like, let's say somebody doesn't work out and they use protein,
Mm.
the protein powder, because this question seems to be around revolving around protein
I'm thinking about
powder.
meat.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
thinking about
sorry,
meat.
meat.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you live a sedentary life, your body
Mm,
still absorbs a certain percentage.
mm.
But if it has a hard time breaking down in the stomach, then the percentage is extremely small. So we have to make sure we have enough fiber in our body because fiber helps break down the food so we can absorb it more.
So are you saying that if if there's less fiber, the meat, the food in your body won't be absorbed properly? So
Correct.
what would happen to the food then?
Oh, it just goes out the other end.
Ah,
Or
the reason I also asked,
it
the
attempts
reason,
to, and then it gets stuck. You know what I mean?
right?
That's why people complain about having bowel movement problems because
Mm,
they're just
lack
not
of
having
fiber.
enough of a balanced diet.
Mm-hmm,
Balanced. I'm shaking my hand because I'm like, too much protein, you've got a problem. Too
mm,
little protein and
mm,
not enough fiber,
mm,
or too little of a balance, and you've got it's an issue. So let me go back to this one. If you got too much protein but not enough fiber, well,
mm,
you're in trouble. So you want a balance of your protein and your fiber and your carbs. Doesn't
mm-hmm,
have to be perfect, but you
mm-hmm,
should at least be aware of how much you're absorbing per day. So if your body's not giving you the results that you want, you can look at your body, you can look at what you're eating, and you can figure out, well, what am I lacking? What do I
mm-hmm,
need to lower? What do I need to raise in
mm-hmm.
order to let my body transform the way it's naturally designed to transform? Which to me is to still be young, to still be optimal, to still have a certain level of strength and endurance.
Mm. The reason I asked is because my son, you know how young men, this the just tendency they just eat meat, right? It's not just
Mm-hmm.
for myself, and then occasionally, oh, I need some fiber, but that is just the habit of many young people only eat a lot of meat.
Yeah, you know what? When they're younger, they can, to a degree, they can
Yeah.
get away with it more
Mm.
than somebody in their 40s or 50s. That's because
Yeah.
their stomachs still have a lot more enzymes than what we have
Oh.
as we grow older, right?
Oh, I see. So we lose everything in our body,
Well,
enzymes, muscle, just
it just life in the modern world
right.
doesn't necessarily support um, the good quality functions in our body.
Right.
Like for example, and I'm not knocking it, because we need certain technologies in our life to live these days. A good example is, let's say you go and let's say you're sick. I didn't know this when I was in my 20s or my 30s, really. I
Right.
only started learning this now in my 40s. A little slow
Mm,
on my part, but I had to learn.
mm,
I found out that if let's say you get sick, you go to the doctor gives you antibiotics, right? You start to get well. Let's say
mm.
you had a really heavy cold, a really heavy flu. Take your antibiotics. All of a sudden, a few days later, you're like, oh, I'm good. Notice how the doctor always says, make sure you finish the
Yeah,
medication,
7 days.
right? Right. You got to finish
Mm,
it. So what they're referring to is making sure you use all the medication so any of the bad bacteria in your body doesn't grow back.
mm,
The challenge is that it also wipes out, in most cases, if not in all. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know all the scenarios, but all the doctors I've gone to they've always said it'll also wipe out the good bacteria.
mm.
So now if you wipe out good bacteria in your stomach, that doesn't necessarily have an ability to just grow back. And that's why a lot of them will tell us, well, you now have to have probiotics for the rest of your life, the good bacteria. Like you got to go buy it or consume it from something, right?
Mm,
So when you're 20, in a nutshell, when you're 20, you don't have as many of those issues unless you were a 20-year-old or a teen or a child that was always going to the hospital. But by the time you're 40 or 50, you've probably had several hospital visits in your life because people just get sick. It's very common. And they've
mm,
probably had antibiotics.
mm.
If you had antibiotics at least once in your life, there's definitely a lot less of the good bacteria in your stomach to help break down and process that food.
Oh, that's a very good answer. My next question, I know, will be last one for today, is
Mm-hmm.
what happened you said earlier when you lose the good bacteria, for example, right after 7 days of antibiotics, can you eat some food to replenish those good bacteria that were destroyed by the antibiotics? The reason I'm also saying because it's a traditional Chinese way of healing is my mom would say, "Oh, you've been sick. Now I'm giving you all these good nutrients. Drink the soup." Would that help for someone who had been on antibiotics for 7 days? Would you just say they lose it? Can you
But
have the good bacteria coming back naturally by food?
I think it's possible. Remember, I'm not a doctor, so I can't talk for everybody.
Yeah.
And what
Yes.
you just
Yes.
referred to was an Asian method of reutilizing and
Yeah.
adding good bacteria into your body. I'm pretty much a Westerner, right? I grew up here. So if you ask me from my own perspective, what I believe is that yes, it's possible. However, the level of knowledge and strict nutrition, strict as in you got to make sure you're eating the stuff regularly, or else you're not going to get that optimal result of absorbing your food.
Mm,
Um, I don't, me personally, I'm not disciplined enough to do that. And I'm just being transparent and honest, right? It's one of the reasons why I use supplementation, because now I have no excuse. If I'm taking a pill that's loaded with probiotics in it, the good bacteria, well, then now I know that if I don't eat so well that day, like let's say I forget to have my salad, let's say I forget to have a variety of vegetables in my salad to help me break
mm,
down my meats.
mhm.
Well, if I forgot that day, I'm not going to be stuck in the washroom the next day because I just took my probiotics in a pill. The Westerners, like here, I can't say Westerners. It's maybe the whole world. I don't know. I haven't traveled that much these days, but I find living here in our city, convenience really matters. So sometimes the question becomes, is it what am I more attracted to? What's my habit more? Is it convenience or quality? Sometimes you can get both, which is why I use supplementation, because to me, I get convenience and quality in one get-go.
Mhm.
But some people don't think that way, which is fine. So now we have to figure out, well, what are they more attracted to? If they're attracted to quality, but they don't believe in supplements,
Mm,
that's fine. But it means they have to be disciplined in what they're eating and drinking.
mm,
Eating and drinking, in other words, they have to make sure their water is on point. Everyone has a minimal standard of water that they need to take in every single day. And if
Mm-hmm.
they're low, their stomach's not going to operate optimally because they're
Mm-hmm.
dehydrated, no good,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, if someone listening to this is drinking alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
now they have to counterbalance the alcohol, because once you drink alcohol, the body, up to 72 hours, depending on how much they consumed,
Mm-hmm.
shuts down on protein synthesis, meaning when they eat the protein for up to 3 days, their body does not produce muscle. It just passes through.
Wow.
It means that most of what they're eating just passes through. And during those 3 days, that's usually why you start to notice when they go back to training. Like, let's say somebody partied over the weekend. It was their birthday. It was Christmas. It was whatever the occasion.
Hmm.
Let's say they party on Friday and then they go back to training on Monday, or they just go back to life on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
They usually, not always, but they
Mm-hmm.
usually feel more tired, more easily exhausted, hard to focus.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes their stomachs don't feel right. Well, why is it? Why is it if I went drinking on a Friday, then on Monday I still feel like crap? Well, it's not just because I was drinking, because internally there's a whole bunch of stuff in the body that's no longer operating at an optimal level anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So now the question becomes, well, what are we going to consume to get our bodies back to that place of being well sustained? Well sustained as in everything in the body's working properly. You know, when I eat something, it's breaking down properly, it's absorbing properly. The stuff inside that food that I don't need, it's excreting properly. Like, I'm not getting an upset stomach. I'm not feeling super exhausted at 12 at lunchtime or 2 in the afternoon. Or if I do one short 20-minute workout, I don't feel like a truck just hit me. Like, those are signs. Those are signs that something in the body is not necessarily right. And those are signs that I find we don't always find in a textbook. We don't always find in a class.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to pay attention to it in our life, because when we don't pay attention to that, that's usually when people start to, like, for me, I was growing older, but I felt like I was double my age. I'm talking way back when I was 30 years old. And
You have a lot of disruption, right? When you think about alcohol now I can imagine your body is working smoothly, and all of a sudden the alcohol comes in like a disruption in the middle, and then it's like a detour. I'm thinking about a detour, and then your body needs 3 days to go back to the usual routine.
Right.
Yes.
Right. That's exactly why.
Detour.
Yeah,
takes 3 days. That's a long time.
Right. And then it gets longer as we get older. So when we're in our 20s, a day. In our 30s, a few days. 40s and 50s, a week. I'm not talking about like a week in order just to feel normal. You feel normal the next day. But when you start pushing your body, when you start trying to make improvements on your body, oh, good luck. Good luck. Yes. If you're doing leg press at the gym and you're doing 90 pounds easily on a Friday night you go drinking, and then Monday you go back to that leg press, that 90-pound leg press is going to feel like 150.
Is it like intruder? Drugs is basically invaders, invader to your body. That's what happened. Yes.
And I just want to say real quick, okay? So I'm not putting down alcohol, or I'm not putting down like having a social life and enjoying yourself. Like, if that's what someone wants to do, that's perfectly fine. It's their life. Who am I to judge? I don't judge, right? But what I do is I help, especially like for yourself and with all of our clients. I always ask them, what matters more to you? Because if you want to get a better body, but you still want to enjoy your life in the same way, well, now you've got an imbalance. It's like someone who says, I want to make $1 million, but they're watching Netflix all the time. Or I want to be really smart, but they never listen to an audio or read a book or take a class. Like, it's it's not going to work, right?
Yes. It's of my idea right now. A lot of I think many people might not understand the effect of alcohol, how they play a role in the body. Now, when I think about it, it's like an invader into your house, and now you have to figure how to get rid of it because you put it in your body, right? So, what is it? How is alcohol playing in your body makes it different? A lot of people just drink or social, entertaining, but yet they think it's food. They think it's something goes in and go out, but it disrupts every muscle joints when it gets in there, right? So that's
Correct.
why the effect that I feel is like, wow, before my fitness, before I started working so hard in the gym, I couldn't tell the difference. So only when I stop, only when I have alcohol, I could tell the difference.
Hugely. And the more
Yeah.
fit you get, the more you start to notice, right?
Yes, yes. In the past, when you keep doing the same, when I was having the social drinks quite often, and I wasn't working out, so it was a habit, and I couldn't tell the difference until when I stopped. And oh, this is what happened when you don't have those invaders, when you don't have those bad bugs in your body, right?
Mm, mm.
Mm,
At the end of the day, everyone's just got to make a choice for themselves, right? But what I find is that what when it comes to stuff like protein powder,
right.
there's just a big stigma behind it. It's kind of like the stigma with where women just assume if I
Mm,
lift weights, I'm going to be very bulky.
mm,
Wow, no. And if you're taking a lot of
yeah.
steroids,
Yes.
sure, but because we see so many people, and
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm not knocking steroids or PEDs. I
Mm,
don't like to judge. I'm just talking about what's out there. So
mm,
what we see on a lot of like Instagram, maybe not so much Facebook, maybe, but you see on social media, a lot of the fit women, they're jacked, big
mm,
broad shoulders and like big V tapered back, and some of them are really big. That's not natural,
mm,
but that's a common stigma. It's a myth that women will just naturally get big. No, you won't. You don't have
mm,
enough you don't have enough testosterone in your body to get that big unless you're like stabbing yourself with the powerful stuff to make that happen. But
right.
that's what I'm talking about in contrast to like protein.
Mm,
Protein has a stigma with people outside of the fitness industry.
mm,
Inside the fitness industry, we have a
right.
better understanding of it. And of
Right.
course, you get some people that try to use like the next level stuff, not exactly so healthy. They just want to get big muscles. But I'm
Mm,
not talking about them. I'm just talking about people in general
mhm,
inside the fitness industry that understand how protein breaks down, how like it's just knowledge that isn't always commonly shared. So I
mhm,
think this is really good on your part, Helen, that you're deciding to make this video and to share
mhm,
it, because if anybody wants to make that transitional change, they
mhm,
should at least have some knowledge or be willing to acquire
mhm,
some knowledge on what is protein powder. Why is that important for me? Why
mm,
would I need that for my body? Like, can't I just get protein just from regular meats?
mhm,
Which you could technically, but the amounts is just it's pretty damn large. Not everyone has that capacity to eat that much, but they
mhm,
should have that knowledge. And I believe if anyone wants to make a difference for themselves, they can't come into a different lifestyle with the same mindset. So if they
mhm,
come into, if they're living a regular life, I work 9 to 5, or I run a business, but I don't work out, they're transferring into a fitness life, whether part-time or full-time for themselves,
mhm,
they should be coming in with a new set of beliefs, or
mhm,
at least be willing to acquire them, and a new set of knowledge on what do I really need in this arena to be successful here.
mhm,
Just because someone was successful here doesn't mean they'll be successful here. They're
mhm,
successful here in this part of their life because they acquired knowledge and experience.
mhm,
No matter where we go in our life, whether we're talking about becoming a car mechanic or becoming a fitness, expert, or even just knowledgeable about our own bodies or becoming great at being a parent, I don't care what it is, you got to be able to walk into that arena with the expectation that, hey, if I want to be really good at this, at least enough that I'm happy with myself, I got to have some new knowledge. I can't walk in with the same brain because the same brain just produces the same results.
mhm. No, this is very good because with me, I make a little bit better choices because I know a little bit about fitness. So
You know lots after this whole year. You're
so
just being humble.
ultimately is what I know, so that can help me make better decisions. So many people are making decisions without much knowledge. So like again, the first thing they have to do is really get to understand a little bit what they put in. And like Warren Buffett said, the biggest risk is not knowing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I
So
would want to close.
thank you. This is good.
No,
This is
yeah, no,
good.
totally, totally. I would want to close off with this thought. If someone is willing to put something like alcohol into their body, and I'm just using alcohol because it's common, right? Again, no judgment on it. But if someone's willing to put that into their body,
Mhm.
they have to, I believe, they should also consider asking themselves, what else do I have to put in my body to counteract the
Mhm.
side reactions that alcohol brings? Side reactions like I feel more tired, my brain doesn't work as well.
Mhm.
It takes me longer to recover. My muscles don't seem to be very strong. I'm not even building muscles. Like, you and I have never seen someone who goes to the gym, drinks alcohol, and then has an amazing body. Like
Yes.
any Instagram person you see with a fantastic
Yeah.
physique, trust me, they're not touching beers and
No. No.
right. So again, no judgment, but we're talking. I'm bringing this up because we're talking about fitness. We're talking about making a change in the body.
Mhm.
So I would want to ask somebody, if someone asked me, well, protein, I don't know, maybe it's chemical, maybe it's this and that. I would ask them, what do you think alcohol is doing to your body?
Mm.
And not to challenge them, but to challenge their belief set. Because
Mm.
if they're so used to doing one thing, but they're
Mhm.
not willing to expand their mindset,
Mhm.
then no matter how hard they, bench press and squat and over in the fitness side, they're going
Mhm.
to struggle. And you know it, I know it. We don't want people to come into this side of life
Mhm.
just to struggle. We
Mhm.
want them to come in here and learn the struggle, but there's enjoyment in that struggle. Like, look at you. I can't keep you away from the gym, even if my life depended on it. And when you're in there, you're not sitting there sitting pretty, going, oh no, 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 no. You're working your ass off. You're working your ass. And look, you love it. I love it. We love, and that's why. Yeah, put those arms up. No, put those arms. Show them off for sure. And that's different
Yeah.
because if we brought you into this side of life
Mhm.
with the old habits,
Mhm.
would you look this way? Would you feel this good with all the working out you do? Would you have this mindset that you
Mm.
have today? Would you love the struggle the way you love it now? Struggle as in like you're doing the reps and it hurts,
Mm.
but you love that hurt. Hell, you get mad at me if you walk out of the gym and you don't have enough hurt.
Well, because
Alan, I
I
didn't get
know
my
the
money's worth
result. I
today,
know the
right?
result.
Right?
The end result. If I get hurt, I get more whipped. I mean,
Yeah,
the
you get
good
more
thing.
ripped, more shredded, more toned. Yeah,
So
because you learn to
yes,
break this
yes,
down. You
yes,
learn to
yes.
break down the muscle,
Yeah.
and because you're at the gym, you've learned to break it down. You've also learned how to recover the
Yeah.
muscle. See, there's a belief that people go, oh, I'm getting bigger at the gym. No, you're not. You don't
Mm.
get bigger and stronger and leaner at the gym. You break down your muscles at the gym.
Mhm.
When you go home and you sleep and you put in good nutrition, that's when your muscles grow.
Mhm.
That's when your muscles get stronger. That's when they get leaner, is when you're recovering, not
Mhm.
when you're training. You go back to train to break down the muscles more.
Mhm.
But what you put in your body at home
Mhm.
is everything that's going to determine how you come back to train again.
Yes. Ultimately, it comes down to education, knowing the process, right? So
Right.
people who make assumptions because they haven't have the information how the body works. Honestly, I'm speaking for myself
Right.
about the side effects of alcohol. I never thought about the side effect,
Most
what
of us
alcohol
didn't.
does in my body.
Right.
It's not because um, I drink it, but now I know the side effect, the
Right.
dangers, and I wouldn't do it. But before, I didn't know. I thought it was a
Barely any of us
casual
knew
thing. I
because we
thought it
didn't
was
grow
like
up with that.
water. No big
Right.
deal. Give you a little bit of relaxation. That was
Right.
all.
Right.
And people realize, until I realized, oh my God, this is what a cup of drinks can do to my body for the next 3 days. I am a
Right.
good person. It's not because I want to destroy my body, it's because I didn't know, right?
Right.
So,
We just grow up as monkey see, monkey do, right? So if you saw your parents drinking at any level, or if
yeah,
you saw your friends drinking at any level, or if you just
yeah,
saw anyone that you were close to
right,
at any level, then that
right,
just becomes part of your reality. Monkey see, monkey do, right? We don't
yeah,
normally grow up being around fitness freaks,
right,
people that are just really into fitness.
yeah,
So usually what happens is there's no contrast. They're just
right,
like contrast is in like there's one comparison to another.
right,
It's like anything else in life. If there's no contrast, if you just take
right,
it away,
hmm,
then that becomes their reality. That becomes their world. And they
right,
don't start to notice what's really happening until they see other people
mm,
living in a different way, whether
mm,
good or bad, irrelevant in this conversation. But
right,
until you start to see that, okay, so let me pull that back. Let's say that I grew up and I didn't see any fitness people. And then all of a sudden in my 30s, I'm around guys that are like 50, but they look 35. Or I see, 60-year-old men that are running 10 miles, no sweat. Or I'm around 45-year-old women that all of a sudden they're running 12 kilometers a day and then they go work out for an hour, like lifting weights, and they go home and it's like normal for them and they live happy. Okay, now if I'm over here, I've got a choice. I can either stay here, and if I'm happy, stay here. But if I'm not happy with that, now I'm seeing what's really possible. Growing up, we never saw that. Usually, if you just jump group to group, everybody's drinking, everybody's just living day to day, everybody's just doing stuff, but they're not optimizing their body. Like optimization for the body is common, but it's only in certain pockets of our culture. That's why you've got like the fitness culture. It's not like everybody lives fit on this side of the world. We'd like to think we do, but we don't know enough to be at that level of fit, at least in the beginning stages, right? I'm just talking about knowledge base, not in terms of anything else. So when we're going back to alcohol and being able to use protein powder and I need it, I don't need it, to conclude all this, I would usually say, take the time. Like if you really want to change in your body, take the time to find out, what does alcohol really do to my body? And again, bringing up alcohol because it's just the most common. What does protein powder really do for my body? Both in terms of quality stuff. Like you can talk about quality alcohol and you can talk about quality protein powder, because there's crap protein out there and there's crap alcohol. We know that, right? And crap, I mean, based on the production of both of those items. If you do enough research, you don't have to dig very deep to notice that one gives you more of a result that you want if you want to get younger, leaner, toner, and the other one doesn't support that ability.
This is great. We share a lot today, and let's share more tomorrow.
Sounds good, Ms. Fong. Thanks so much for your time.
This is good. I'm sure this is very helpful for many of the people who haven't had a chance to try protein powder, and also for people who don't know the effect of alcohol in their body, right? So this is good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm glad that we can bring some awareness to everybody, and I'm glad that you were willing to share parts of your story so people understand how it affected you in your life, so they can maybe look at themselves if they're looking to make that shift. Like if they're not making if they're not looking to make a shift, they don't need this video. But if they're looking to make a change in their body to improve, then your life example, I believe, is a good testimony as to what happens to your body when you pay more attention to what's going in it and not just the output of it. I'm doing this like as if I was bench pressing at the gym.
This is very good. It's like going to a college or university, but sharing with someone who actually have the practical knowledge, right? Different books, you read them, but then you're actually hearing from the person who's been on it and off and then using the product, right? So,
100%. I agree.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.